And the difficulty to say it, to have to admit it.
Where are you getting all these nuggets of gold from?
Oh, no!
Some people in the business, in order to cope with that, resort to some very dangerous choices. And
hey, Demetrios Troy, welcome,
Demetrius.
brother. Man, it's good to see you, Demetrius.
it's good to see you guys,
Yeah,
too.
it's been a minute.
You guys are both well?
Yeah.
Boy,
big,
you
big
know what?
updates, big things happening, which is very exciting. Obviously, this is recording, but do you want to give like a?
Sure. You can tell Demetrius anything.
I don't know that that's true.
I know it's
It
true.
is.
It's
Well,
true.
whatever, fine. You judge my character however you want.
You know, we know you, but we don't know
They
I don't know who you are.
always say Lazarus is quite the gossip.
That's what they say.
Behind your back. No.
So
you are.
I get all the gossip.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what's about to happen.
Here we
And
come.
So we're excited, and I think some of the conversation we've even had with you, just we bring you in to do the voice of God and work on our
Yeah. So take a step back and kind of like our relationship with Demetrius for people that are watching that don't know, kind of.
A king the people wanted. A king they did receive. Now the crown corrupts the king, and all God's people grieve.
Well, watching The Chosen, see this handsome devil come up. Devil's probably not the best word for it. Honestly, we were very impressed with the performance that we saw, and I think we were sort of in a similar circle, having Catherine Lidstone produce for us for our short film.
I think we were actually talking to Demetrius even before that, though, right?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, I
actually.
remember having a couple conversations with you, even just leading into that, of kind of getting to know you a little bit. And we had one where I was back at the Terry Lane house. We were able to talk for about an hour just on the phone about what we were doing. You had seen the 10th, and
Right.
you had reached out to kind of say, hey, I'm interested in this and what you guys are doing. And that was really encouraging. And this kind
Gene also connected us as well.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, I do remember
my
that.
agent.
Yeah, we got on a call and we talked for a couple hours, didn't we?
Yeah.
Just like
It was great.
art. Yeah, just art,
Yeah,
man.
about art, about what you guys were doing, what direction you guys were going with your projects, and then things happened. I won't get into the details. It's your business. And then you got David at King's Calling. The short film that you guys put together, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you,
guys
sir.
do such amazing production. Your production quality is so good. And I really want to get on set with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I
gonna
mean,
be
we were
fun.
just, remember I was in my closet downstairs recording for the voice of God.
Yeah. We can't wait to figure out how to implement that talent that you have. We just have such a respect, and this goes back to the conversation early on about acting that we had with you. I think we talked for over an hour just about the actor's experience on set, what it means to him.
You called to ask me about a specific film, and that ended up into being this hour conversation.
Yeah. And then also I knew that we could get what we needed in terms of VO work for our most recent project that we did. We knew that we could give that in probably an hour. And so we scheduled you for 3 just so we could use 2 to talk. And I honestly, I think there's something to this, both for creatives, whether it be people that are trying to show run and actors, is think in terms of how can you build out an experience where you're really finding your team of people that you can trust, finding out people that are like-minded, right? One of the things we're so excited to have you on set one of these days very soon is we know you're extremely talented. We know you're extremely hardworking. And then even more important than that, our creative styles are very similar. And this is something that I hoped that we could dive a little bit more into. I have quite a few questions here lined up to just sort of talk to you about process specifically. We know that a lot of your experience hinges in the Shakespeare world and then in kind of biblical storytelling. Both of those, I mean, if you think about what they are thematically, are just monolithic. These are culture-changing devices in terms of storytelling, Shakespeare, the Bible. And this is the majority of where you spend your time. And so What is it that you see in terms of parallels between those two worlds that kind of are that make for this experience that changes the world?
Well, you got to remember that in the culture, in our literature, so much of our literature, especially, Shakespeare, all those, famous writers, their work was, they knew the Bible very well.
Yeah.
And not only did they know the Bible very well, they knew myths, the legends. Education was so different back
It was
then.
different.
The etymology of words and language was nearly beaten into them. And so, I've been on tours, like children's tours with Chicago Shakespeare, and you get kids who will say, it's interesting to hear this language, and well, they don't understand that that's their language.
Yeah.
Education is, I guess, in a lot of ways, it's taken a downturn.
Yeah.
We don't study the classics anymore. Where I believe people really need to know that that level of creativity is reachable. It is attainable.
Right.
And
I think there's something to that as well. Whenever you think about Shakespeare and who he was, I taught Shakespeare at the high school level and ended up becoming really fascinated because as I was learning to teach it, I went, this guy is not who I thought he was at all. Even his upbringing, a lot of people, their perspective on who Shakespeare was is very off, and such a fascinating person. There's a correlation between Shakespeare as an artist and I think a really good actor or a really good director that I kind of want to spend some time on. And that is, before he was able to create all the words that we know in the English language, he became fascinated with the way they were currently being used. And so he learned the fundamentals before he got creative. And I think
Absolutely.
so often as artists, we want to jump straight to saying something new. When in reality, I think most of Shakespeare's works were things based on things that the current culture knew. But it was just so prolific that it was almost like he was innovating. Even to the people that are watching it, they had seen play after play after play about royalty, but then the way he came in and did it, so in terms of being filmmakers, Caleb and I are trying to sort of carve a space out in the faith-based sector for ourselves. And so, looking at Shakespeare and even what the experience is like as an artist, I mean, yeah, it's just really, really encouraging to see he had to learn Latin and had to sit and had to go to class. Shakespeare's not this freak of nature that whenever you look at him, the talent just came out of nowhere, right?
Right.
And as it is with artistry, so kind of taking it back, Caleb and I saw your performance on The Chosen, and there's something really specific about the Bethany sisters and about Lazarus in the show where it felt like the show slowed way down. Do you remember that? Where it felt like we're sprinting, we're seeing all these characters, and whenever you guys' characters are introduced, everything felt like it slowed way down. And
there's a groundedness to it. There's a history to it.
Yeah, I think Caleb and I were both so excited to witness that slower pace because as creatives, that's where we thrive, is in the character-driven study of filmmaking, right? And so what was that like on the other side? Did you guys feel that same sense of gravity happening on set?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a testament to also casting. Dallas and his team really. We were amazed the first time that we were on set together, which was season 3. The sisters and I, we just hit it off immediately and became brother and sisters. Like we still communicate. Like we still tease each other on text and stuff like that.
That's great.
Like the chemistry.
I see you guys went on like some kind of a hiking trip together as well.
Yeah, and during season 4, we went on a 3-day trip. Actually, the whole cast was supposed to be there, but because we were waiting on the exemption from SAG to actually finish filming, the whole schedule got all kerfuffled, and so we had to. Everybody's schedule changed, and so instead of everybody going down to one of the producers' like large home with all these rooms, it was only the 3 of us and Elijah Alexander, who plays Atticus in the show. So we had this palatial place by ourselves right by Zion, and we got to hike, and And, there was moments where we got under each other's skin, but it was like, we as brothers and sisters, like got over those things, when you get close to people, your little, eccentricities come out and sometimes, can get under, like I said, under people's skin.
Oh,
but
man.
it just helped our relationship on the screen.
Yeah.
Because they're both, we're all, very down to earth, forgiving, open, like, lovely
Sure.
people. Well, they are. I'll let them talk about me. Something that you were talking about earlier, as far as the work, the craft, and something that I believe you can tell the depth of people's art by what is their basic storytelling skills, which is something that somebody like Shakespeare did. He knew Latin. He knew the etymology of words. He knew language. He knew our myths and legends, our histories, from Tacitus to Cicero. He knew all these things. He had to study all these things. That is, in your work, that basic craft, that knowledge, like, gives so much depth to your storytelling.
Yeah.
You can tell, like, when you go to the Art Institute, or you go to any museum, you can tell those artists who knew the basics of drawing, for example. Okay. But then when you see more modern art, which, not most modern art doesn't really speak to me. But there is modern art that speaks to me, because I can tell that you can tell that they knew the basics of drawing.
Yeah.
Whenever you go to, like, the Dali Museum in Sarasota, if you can go to that museum, it's unbelievable, because yes, he started really, really branching out and creating these new works, but the museum takes you through his
Right.
beginning days, and you can see him going through emulating all these artists, all these different styles, until he came to find himself.
Yep.
So just that journey as creatives, we need to go through. We need to be a part of things that accentuate our art.
And that's what fascinates us as artists, is origin stories. And as humans, I think everyone is aware of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey inside of themselves to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And as Shakespeare is taking in things like Virgil and Ovid and Cicero, some of those legends, which we think, and I shouldn't say we necessarily, but especially people that are undereducated on storytelling in general, you might think William Shakespeare just kind of jumped out of a pot and here he is writing these legacy tales. Well, no, I think what he was doing was he was really studying what makes a good story, what makes a good hero. That's something that my brother and I have spent a ton of time on. And the reason why I think, even though we're new, we're 5 years into this and we haven't done our first feature film, we're really excited to jump into long form storytelling, because we know what it is that excites us about the hero's journey. And what are some of those things, as we're talking, that kind of jumps out to you about even just our main character in the story we're writing?
Yeah, suffering. I think whether it's Shakespeare, I mean, any good story, you really have to see your protagonist suffer. I think anything that's just awarded without real hardship feels
Convenient, maybe.
not convenient. It almost it makes the story not worthwhile.
Well, yeah, those are the things that shape us. They shape our character. To
Right.
rob ourselves or a character of those obstacles robs them of their journey.
Right.
It's like C.S. Lewis. Well, I can't remember the C.S. Lewis quote, but I remember Anthony Hopkins in Shadowlands, how he talks about the gift of suffering, and how God, we're chiseled out of marble, and those strokes are God's love for us, carving us into the human beings that He wants us to be.
Yeah, and certainly it doesn't feel good as we go through it, but those are our stripes that we're able to take with us and show as we move forward. I think many people are watching The Chosen. We're excited for the new season to come out. We're getting ready to come into a literal and metaphorical season of suffering within the show that sort of extends beyond what we've seen to that point as Jesus goes towards the cross. But it is amazing how many shows are beautiful because they embody Christ's suffering on behalf of, and sort of as a
Archetype almost.
yeah, as an archetype, when you see the Christ-like figure give itself up within, some kind of a movie or a television show, there's just this unbelievable fascination and gratefulness and hope that wells up inside of you. To me, I think sacrifice is one of the biggest things that you almost have to have within a project. Now, the sacrifice can't be so quick that you can't see the weight and the importance of what's being sacrificed.
And that's true. That's true love. That's true love in friendship. Right. That's true love in marriage. In working with, it's true love when you're working with colleagues as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we look at the character of actually Lazarus. I think there is an interesting dilemma that we have with that character. And we see he's very similar, I think, to Christ. It's almost a forerunner in this process of dying and being risen back to life, and this willingness to go to and to die.
The foreshadowing of what's to come.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it had to be this way, but also not, because there is a higher plan in all of it.
I trust you.
Did you do any background research into the character in terms of your process? Because a lot of times you're playing real people in those two worlds, or maybe not real people in the Shakespeare sense, obviously, because his work was fiction, but done so many times that there's almost a realness to these characters where they've taken on flesh in a way. Did you do any background research into the character of Lazarus? I'm wondering if you've ever heard any of the theories on him as a character type.
I've heard plenty of theories, and I've read a lot about it. Well, as much as there can, and there's not a lot.
Yeah.
Of it. The thing with research, and it's something that yes can live in your body, but it's often something that's not playable on screen.
Sure.
It depends on that depending on where it's shot and how it's shot. The approach for me when I get in there, when you start thinking about the theology and the stories and the expectations, that can be overwhelming and put you inside your head, and you don't want to be there as a performer.
Right.
And it's like you living up to these expectations, and when
at a certain point you have to make a choice, right? You got to make a choice. You got to
exactly.
put the paintbrush onto the canvas and start to draw something, start to paint something.
I mean, in my process, I'll have things that I may want to say or ways I want to do things. I'll have a plan. Oh, hey, I could do this. I could say it this way. Sure. I can't help those things in my process. When I'm working on my craft and I'm working on a character, I try to leave myself open to what is the story telling me. But most importantly, I like to throw all that stuff away and know that it is living inside of me. I trust that it's living inside of me. That history, those choices, those choices that I've made. I keep those things in my back pocket. And what's most important is when I'm on set, I am not only listening to the actor that is across from me.
Right.
What are they going to give me? I already have life inside of me. Yeah. Now I just have to share myself and listen and take in what they're giving me. And that's when we get moments of truth that we can capture on screen. But not only being open to what the actor's giving to me, the director, the costumers, the energy of the room, of the gaffers, the cinematographers, the DP, the set dressers. You have to be open to the energy in the room. That's what's truth.
It's so funny that you mentioned the costumers specifically, because I have heard multiple stories of actors that were having a hard time finding truth, and then as soon as they got into the costume, it's like it just clicked. There's something about wardrobe that really does impact believability, and also who am I? And then you see yourself in costume and makeup and you go, oh, I know exactly who this person is. And you can't find it quite before. which is really
Yeah,
fascinating. Would you say that that's a quality of like a lesser actor that's struggling there, or is that the quality of like a different kind of process?
No, it's just a different kind of process. It's like when you go through school and you start breaking down yourself, and you are exposed to the many different ways of getting into a character.
Yeah.
It's like Stanislavski, Strasberg, all these famous, explorers. I want to say innovators of the craft.
Yeah.
Though that was their way of getting in.
Yeah.
That was their way. They found that for themselves,
Right.
And they also had that experience of taking it from other people.
Yeah.
That's why when people who are asking me to coach them, it's like all those things are tools.
Yeah.
And as a person, you have to be able to find how do you listen to your instinct?
That's so
How do you
good.
listen to that voice inside of yourself? And then,
Yeah.
this technique may work for this moment. It's
Have
like,
you ever
but have to
gotten
be
into a
willing to listen.
performance and truly lost yourself into the person that you're crafting or creating?
Earlier in my career. Earlier.
What did that look like? What, tell us about that.
Well, if the thing for me that I believe kept me from sort of going to, you can be in a position where you go to dangerous places, and
Right.
you have to portray individuals that are dealing with some very, very heavy
Right.
experiences. And you have to find that truth and that possibility within yourself. Some people in the business, in order to cope with that,
Yeah.
resort to some very dangerous choices in order to get out of that.
Right.
And there's a trap and a danger of wanting to live that catharsis over and over and over, and sort of chase those endorphins that happen when you're going to these emotional places.
Oh yeah.
I love living there, but you have to have a ground to dance on. For me, it's faith. I always have my faith. I always have the 0 point where it's like, this is my ground,
Yeah.
because you don't want to take that stuff home with you.
Sure.
You don't want to take it home to your family, and you don't want it living inside of you. That's when it starts becoming self-indulgent, in my opinion. Not to say I
Yeah.
don't. Not
Man.
to say I don't respect actors who are more method. There's certain
Sure.
things where I've gone method for things, but it's not like I'm having people call me by name. There's room for that, but you always have to maintain your respect for the people around you, because that can be an excuse to, put yourself in very abusive, places.
It's so
And-
interesting what you're talking about there. I feel like there's 1,000 different roads we can take from here. Whenever you get into talking about method acting, and then even director style. So let's say you're somebody that's going to a dark place, and you have a director like David Fincher that does 70 takes. Oh my gosh.
That's your job. That's my job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
And it's
I
depending on who you're working with, this can be a different experience, right? And so if your place is to be method, I love what you're describing there of, you might have to switch your style of exactly your strategy on performance.
Or at least maybe not
your
switch
process.
the style. I think a better way, perhaps you could elaborate, Demetrius, but from what I understand about it, it's from what reservoir you're pulling from, right? So if you kind of are continually pulling from this place of trauma or raw to get your your physical body to emote, then there's going to be a payoff for that, and a very negative, almost like a slingshot. It's going to slap back.
There's a bill.
Well,
coming
I
due.
can speak about that. I do not use my real life experiences. I used to do that when I was a younger actor, and I think it's a very it's dangerous, and I think it's unreliable. Because after a time you heal from the traumas that you've been through, but to use it as almost like a therapy, in my opinion.
Yep.
And maybe other people have a different opinion about that. I recently did a short film with Jason. You guys know Jason.
Jason Munden?
Yeah, Jason Mundy. You guys know Jason. And I played the Pharaoh in this latest piece that he did, and I have to lament over my dead son.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's
Yeah.
this kid, I asked, they were going to put a dummy in. I'm like, no, I want the kid there the whole time if he can do it. And he was such a champ. This young actor
Yeah.
was such a champ. He's wonderful.
How old was he?
He must have been, I want to say 7 or 8.
Cool.
You know,
That's right there at that spot where
Exactly.
where acting can really start. And my daughter's 7, and I'm starting to see the lights come on in conversation about performance. It's so exciting. But go ahead.
And so here I'm in this moment where I have to be in this state of mourning. I was the first person to shoot, and we shot this scene all day. And I had to stay in this place of losing my child.
Yeah.
At one point, I'm on set and I'm kind of getting in the zone, thinking through the language. And for me, getting into like more emotional states comes with the language. Vowels can they show the emotion, where consonants is the context. I'm losing my brain. I've been up for so long, but I had this moment where I started thinking about losing my own children. Like, it's like your brain will go there, and I had to be like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like,
This
Lord
isn't
Jesus
that.
Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. Don't go there. Don't use that.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
shoved that aside.
It's kind of the
but-
dark arts from Harry Potter. It's like
Well, yeah.
it's the power source that can make you great, but it also comes at a cost.
It also reminds me, you probably don't. Do you know the show Full Metal Alchemist, the anime show?
No, I don't know that.
So there's this very potent problem within the show, which is all power has to take from to be able to provide to. And so when they're first starting off, it's like it's all this wonderful stuff. They're actually using the skill of alchemy in the show, and so it's very akin to kind of like a supernatural power, which they can craft things or give things supernatural abilities. It's like his brother dies, and so they put his like soul in a suit of armor, and he's with him, like continuing to live. But there's one point in the show where they sort of pull back the veil, and it reveals the dark side, which is all of this good has to come from somewhere, right? So there's, if you're wanting to give life to something has to die. And,
Very Star Wars.
Yeah, it is but it's very interesting when you think about all the different factors that you've kind of talked about to this point, which is, I'm thinking about late nights. I'm thinking about, there is the personal that's happening, your relationship with your wife, you're away from your kids. There's a certain impact there. There's memorizing the lines, the stress of location and figuring out where you're going, lack of sleep. And then, just you get on set and now the job begins. And now, it's not,
The job begins when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't care what character. For me, I mean, as soon as God willing, we get to do a project, just give me a role.
Yeah.
The minute you give me the role, that's where I begin. That's where I'm starting my work already.
Yeah.
And when I get to set, memorizing your lines, like learning the history, having artistic conversations, that's the monkey work. That is your basic craft. That's what needs to be done. You
Yeah.
better arrive on set ready to go.
Yeah.
And then when you have all that and you reach a place where you know the lines so well, and I get to the point where I know the other person's lines and you know it so well, it's like some people are like, well, you can get stiff that way. Some people do. For me,
Sure.
there is a point beyond memorization where there's complete freedom. I can
Freedom.
go-
Yep. I agree.
And for me, an actor, and as a director, like I'll have a vision, but I throw my vision out. It's in the back. If
Yeah.
I need to make a choice, I'm ready to make a choice.
Yeah.
And an actor and a creative needs to be like water.
Right.
And I think when you're like water, when you have the ability to change, ability to take direction, to kill your darlings, as Stephen King says on writing, and I like to say, being subservient to the best idea in the room.
Okay. Let's talk
check
about that.
You check that pride at the door.
Yeah.
And when you're in the room and you're creating, you leave all that stuff at the door, all the family stuff, the things
Yeah.
in your life, and you are on set and you are there and you're creating and you're listening. For me, I like to I like to check in with the people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm doing emotional scene, I like to joke around, you know, because laughter is so close to sadness. But you have to be subservient to the
man.
best
Yeah, and
idea in the room.
there's something there with comedians and how deep and how dark they're able to perform. Laughter is so close to sadness, what you're saying. To kind of hit on that just a little bit, because, you know, coming into this, there are a few like loose topics that we really wanted to explore with you. True or false, you had a pretty big scene with Jonathan Rumi in your season that you were just in of The Chosen. True or false, Dallas let you guys kind of take the script and sort of take it and make it your own. Is this a situation where he allowed you guys to take what he had made and then turn it into your own? Or is that a rumor that's being spread about you?
No. We had a moment where Jonathan and I, we wanted to get together before we did that scene. And I went over to the place he was renting out in Utah, and we sat down for some Thai food, a little prayer, and then we went through the scene. And we both came with our ideas of, you know, where things were going. But when it's fun when I'm working with Jonathan, it's very organic. You know, we listen to each other and we have a lot of fun. And we went through it, and there was just some things that were exposition that we just didn't felt that we needed.
Yeah.
And so we just both, no, we don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. And then we asked permission if we could do that. And Dallas gave us, was gracious enough to give us that freedom.
That's great.
And so, you know, that scene would have been a little longer, but because it's the length of it is so sweet, it's so to the point. And without that with that exposition, we were able to achieve that intimacy. I know that there was one line that was supposed to be another way, but I'm not one that often asks permission to do things on set. So if there is a line that I feel like, I think my character would say this, I'll say it.
Yeah.
I won't ask permission. I'll just do it. But if a director tells me, hey, I really need you to say it this way, no problem.
Yeah.
So
just
to clarify there, though, right? So you're not giving permission for actors to get on set and fake lines. You're coming in with a trained idea of what the line needs to be. You're not just kind of like you know what I mean? You're not just coming up with something in the moment of like, I can't remember what the line is, so I'll just say it this way. You're coming in very intentionally.
Yeah, absolutely. But sometimes that does happen. You know your character so well. Sometimes in the moment, depending on what the other actor is giving you. I mean, that's, you know, part of listening. That's part of being in the moment. Yeah. Is somebody may say something a certain way and it just comes out of you. Yeah. I mean, there are points where, like, a number of points where, you know, Dallas was so gracious to allow us to improv, and Jonathan and I will just go back and forth. Yeah. But the thing is it's grounded in the given circumstances.
That's great.
Grounded in the character. It's not like, we want to have fun and just waste everybody's time.
And it's a bit like an excavation.
It was middle of the night, right, when you guys were doing this?
Yeah, I think there's hardly any like improvisation in that one. Him and I both said a couple of lines differently from what I remember, but it was in the middle of the night. We were called, I think I was called at like 4 or 6 p.m. and we didn't get to set till about 11:30. And so here you are, you've got to live with, I got to make sure I'm still connected to the resurrection scene, to the scene where, you know, the sisters are cleaning me up, and here I am, you know, playing that scene where I truly believe Lazarus saw the other side. He saw something. He experienced something that completely changed him. And I was playing that. And so with some of the cutaways, you don't see it, but I made sure I maintained that throughout. And I think it comes across in a subtle way. That's something I love. Art that allows the audience to come to the piece and also promotes thinking and discussion. to me, that's art.
Can I
And
kind
that
of
could-
bust you out a little bit too? One of the things that I really love about your performance style, and Caleb and I,
bust you out?
yeah, I'm gonna bust you out here. I'm gonna
what
rat
that
on you.
means.
I'm gonna snitch. So Caleb and I, we have this tendency while we're watching actors to kind of like live in this place of just subconsciously critiquing or appreciating or even tear like, oh man, this actor really is like up there, this actor, blah, blah, blah. One of the things that we noticed about your performance style is you don't blink a lot. And I just wondered if that was intentional, if that's a decision that you make going in. I hear a lot of actors talk about the eyes being sort of the link to truth, to believability. Is that something that you're cognitively aware of, or is that something that happens natural whenever you're in the moments?
I think it's something that naturally happens in the moment, but it's also a technique, because if you're blinking and stuff like that, then you can cut away, in editing you can cut away. But when you're trying to craft a moment, you see any famous actor, any actor that's out there, you'll see that they'll hardly blink,
Yeah.
and the blinking is seldom. The blinking is even in a transition in the language,
Yeah.
where you can't cut away, you have to stay there.
Yeah, my favorite part, I think, of the performance there, and I think we're all talking about the same scene. You've just been risen from the dead. You're meeting with Jesus. It's kind of late at night in this little villa kind of space.
Well, it's my palatial.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
homestead
Yeah.
in Bethany.
My favorite part of the performance there's just like a real gentle, easygoing back and forth, and then sort of this acknowledgement of what has to come next, and Jonathan's performance there. He's like, it was spoken of in the Old Testament, and I loved your decision there. It's just kind of like looking down, and I see you scanning, and it's almost like you're reading the Old Testament in front of you, and it's yes. It's so simple. It was just like a
This
very
is exactly
subtle.
what we do.
Isaiah gave you many warnings.
Yes.
It's a very subtle.
We
yes.
watch a good performance and then we do it back and
Yeah.
forth, like we're 5 years old.
And
We
it
can't
just
help
gave me chills, man. Like it wasn't like this. Oh yes, it was just.
it. Can you actually cut to his scene
Yeah.
at
Yeah,
this
I'll cut-
moment
yeah, I'll
right
cut-
here just to show? Okay.
I'll cut to it right there. But
Yes.
it was
But
it was
but-
so subtle and it was so understated.
But
and
the subtlety is the gravity.
yeah,
It's the
Yes.
Yes.
that's exactly when
Yes, it
something
was. Yeah.
huge
That's
is
also-
happening.
Correct. That's also, it allows the audience to come to you, to meet you halfway. You're not bombarding them with emotion, but it's also a very natural human tendency. It's like we don't often all of a sudden like, oh, hey, bam. Sometimes, yeah, scripture's in our head, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
To have that moment to just let his words settle with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, it was in front of, oh my God, I'm sitting in front of God. Oh my God, it was in front of us the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was right there.
So much
It's
power in
powerful.
that, and that just one. Yes, it was like that. I was just, man,
And I
that
gotta
was-
say, in
And
terms
then,
of
and the difficulty to say it, to have to admit it,
oh, it was right there.
and to reach the conclusion of suffering, that he's going to suffer,
right,
Yeah.
right.
is heartbreaking.
And I like the quiet and just the nighttime nature sounds and just
Yeah, that scene
being
is
with
not
these
in a
two.
rush.
Nah, being with these two in that moment where this great sparing has taken place for Lazarus, where now there's an acknowledgement that there's something to come and he will not be spared from it.
Man, we can't wait to work with you. We can't wait.
Oh, dude.
It's gonna be so much fun.
Guys,
We're gonna have a blast. Yeah.
I'm so excited. I can't tell you how excited I am. Just to be able to work with people to be able to couple your craft and your faith together,
Yeah.
Yeah.
with people who get it, it's what a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
agree.
about one more thing about that scene that kind of reminds me of two friends, and we've all been in this case where you're sitting around a fire, but you're not looking at each other. It's just like you're in the fire and you're having, for some reason,
Yeah.
there's these real truthful moments that come out of you.
Yeah.
And you know, the other great thing about working with an actor like Jonathan, and the way you connect, the way he connects with you beforehand, and I love doing this with actors as well. It's like you have a moment, and not all actors are down with this, you know, but like hold hands and we connect, and him and I will have a little bit of improv before we begin the scene.
That's great. That's great. I think it's so real, and it hangs you on something tangible as opposed to like a script. Something that I was thinking about earlier is Matthew McConaughey. He has this belief that really the first 3 takes are where you get truth, and after that, you're kind of trying to mimic one of the variations that you did in your performance in the first 3.
I kind of agree with that. You know, it's like sometimes you're working and you're also settling in to what you're doing.
Sure.
It's like, okay, yeah, you have your preconceived notions of what the scene could be like, and you come in with those kind of things, you have your plan. But then when you actually get to, you know, there's also, too many takes can be harmful if you allow it to be.
Yeah.
But then, you know, maybe there's a set amount of takes. Who knows what those are? I think you would feel it in the room as a director and as an actor, where you settle into it. You're connected with your partner. You know, it also depends on craft, where other actors are in their craft.
Sure. Oh, that's really interesting you say that, because I mean, there's a way that you can elevate. There's a way you can unintentionally challenge on screen. One of the most beautiful things about you and Jonathan sitting across from one another is you get this sense of titans doing their own thing. I don't feel like you're trying to catch up with Jonathan in that scene. I don't feel like there's a competitiveness. There are some scenes where I do sense that kind of like, let me get up on his level. I don't feel that sense of like aspiring to happening. I just feel like you guys are both relaxed in who you are, relaxed in the performance that you've chosen. And it comes across like
confident in your craft.
Yeah.
You know, it's and I agree with you. I do agree with you. You can pluck out those performances where, and not just in The Chosen, but in all cinema and all TV series that you're seeing. And there's a bit of a pride that comes across.
How can you not? Whenever it's engaged with your talent, that you've worked so hard for.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like. If as long as you're serving the story, you know, then you don't have to worry about.
Well, what does that mean? Explain to the viewers, somebody who doesn't understand what that means. Serve the story as an actor. What does that mean?
You're not putting yourself in front of the story. You are not important. It's the story that's important. It's the person that you're speaking to. It's the person that you're speaking to. They're important.
Yeah.
In that scene with Jonathan was the most important thing to me.
Right.
You know, and in that character, for, you know, not only for me, but Lazarus, that's the Lord. That's his best friend. He loves his friend. It's about him. It's never about you. When it starts becoming about you, it starts becoming about this. And
there's a parallel.
It's garbage.
There's a parallel there with actually Christian doctrine, which is that the other is more important than yourself. Consider others to be more important than yourself. We know this thematically, that the greatest thing we can do is to give, not to receive. And so if you have an error about set, and I presume that this is the way that it is with Dallas. I've not been behind closed doors.
An error about set? What do you mean?
So if you have a dynamic on set where people are looking to give rather than to receive, Caleb and I as directors, if we're looking to give the best opportunities to the actors on set, what you walk away with is almost a camaraderie. I think we built that with Steve Shermett on the set of David A. King's Calling, where he walked away feeling like, dang, that was hard. And that was indie filmmaking through and through. But whenever you start seeing the clips that drop of the editing, you go, the trust paid out. It's an investment where you're going, I really hope, it's kind of a gamble, you would say, where you're like, I really hope the director's not just letting me fly here and it's not the best, right? And they're just going.
I've been in a lot of positions in my career where I'm just not the squeaky wheel in the room, and directors just let me go, let me do my thing, which I've come to be comfortable with it, you know, and just be like, do your craft, trust your craft. and be in the moment. Listen to what's going on. Be open to what's happening in the room. And you also have to be open as an actor to what direction other actors are being given.
Yeah.
It's like, don't waste anybody's time. Listen to the direction other people are being given. And you can also apply that to yourself. Depending on what the direction is, it may not suit your character, but keep your ear open. That's why I go back to being like water in the room. It's like, be able to go in any direction and be prepared to go to those things and accept that it is a journey that you're going on.
Yeah.
And there's a matter of trust between creatives, which is why when I'm working with people that are new, I'm up for another project, and I met with this new director recently, and they wanted me to be a part of it, and I'm like, okay, I don't know you. Can we meet? Can we do a Zoom? Can we have a conversation? When I met Jason and I were on the phone, and I was just like, I know this man's heart. I've got to work with him. And
which,
now
by the way, to that point, he actually called Caleb and I just because of his relationship with you and a conversation you had about us. He actually called us to connect with us. And I think that's so important in our industry, is that there's multiple touch points happening where people are realizing where's the real deal. And so a question I have for you, but really just to kind of explore this, what does it mean for a creator or for a director to have the it factor? That whenever you watch them, you go, oh, they're doing it. Like, that's the set I want to be on. That's the, there's some of these
from watching, like, they're
sure. Or work. I would say even like this, like you're aware of A24, the production company.
Yes.
In the origin of the company, they could not get A-listers on their sets if they tried. Mm-hmm. But then as they continued to make really divergent, interesting plots, interesting characters, and with a real focus on divergent storytelling as opposed to plot heavy, action thrillers, whatever the case might be, more and more A-listers started reaching out going, I don't care if you don't pay me. I want to be in the next A24 film, and then all of a sudden they start getting nominated for Oscars, and it starts to become this thing of like, what was it about A24 that made them the it company to work for from your perspective? Because we have theories on this, and our goal is
I have a strong theory on this.
I think of James Horner's music.
Mm-hmm.
James Horner's music, for example, and this is he's able to bridge the gap between reality and fantasy with his music. And, being a Trekkie, I think about the Genesis theme, from Star Trek, Wrath of Khan. If you listen to the Genesis theme, there's something about that music, which is based in, I forget the composer's name, and a lot of cinematic composers take from Vaughan Williams. That's the composer. If you listen to Vaughan Williams, you will hear so many amazing film scores.
Yeah.
Right? And there's just something about that music that bridges that gap between reality and fantasy.
Yeah.
And to me, that's compelling storytelling. It's like, how do they leave room for me to actually kind of live in the moment with those characters? And you can tell when things are jump cut in a certain way that it's almost jarring. They find a natural rhythm that you can follow, and that natural rhythm could be something that's frenetic in order to get some kind of anxiety, like horror films using I forget what famous director in horror films, which my name tag is still on from going to my kids' possible school in the future.
We couldn't see it. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is Demetrios Troy.
There he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Demetrios Troy, and then we'll show that image. Hold your name tag up.
But yeah, it's like why do films like Lawrence of Arabia or The Shawshank Redemption, those a lot of famous epic movies that for some reason just pull me in. It's not only the performances, it's the music, it's the score.
It's an ecosystem, a designed ecosystem, right? When you're in an ecosystem that hasn't been designed, you can kind of feel that something's off. Like when you go to
2D.
Yes.
kind of one-dimensional,
Even
two-dimensional.
Right,
even
exactly.
music can be two-dimensional.
Yeah.
well.
Well, you go to I liken it like, what is it about Disney World that we had a theme park close to us growing up? It's called Holiday World. Holiday World was amazing. It's not Disney.
Yeah.
There's something specific about Disney. I think that there's a lot of time and planning and management
And
onto
witchcraft.
And
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
but you can't deny that there was a specific approach to quality that was taken when he was designing what people would feel when they came into Disney.
Walt. Yeah.
Right, like they've thought through everything. They have thought about the experience, and when you think of an ecosystem of creative. You're kind of buying into, and there's a sense of trust of, man, I'm getting something that's going to be really quality here, or really valuable, really entertaining, really enjoyable. You're not just stepping into something where you're kind of watching things get misplayed or mismanaged, or an actor delivers a line and it kind of throws you out of the film where you go, oh, that was weird that they said it that way, or some action or activity that doesn't make sense, or some kind of a plot point that just gets dropped.
Oh my gosh,
Lack of
drives us
blocking.
insane whenever there's no blocking decisions being made. You can have an excellent performance without blocking, and the blocking can be as simple as you and Jonathan sitting across from one another and using one another, right? But
I mean, nothing like there are definitely there's certain moments where you need to hit this mark at this point. I've had a lot of experiences where I'm kind of unleashed, but you're also trusting somebody that they're disciplined enough to understand where they can and where they can't. I won't say cannot move, but can move.
Right.
All right. And
That's a good
where
point.
you understand what the camera's doing, where an actor understands that. You can have play within your performance, but if you're doing all kinds of crazy things, they can't edit that stuff together.
yeah,
And so you find those levels in your performance, so that way, like Jason was telling me, it's just like I could edit anything together.
Yeah.
And you did all this different stuff, but you still maintained this. I formed a structure that I could play in.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of great directors do that as well. Is they form a structure. Not all. You don't always get that experience. Where you get to actually have a conversation with the directors and producers and have that. That's a luxury.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I try to take advantage of as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I think that's something that would really shock you about Caleb specifically. And this is not as much me because I don't edit. Caleb is a post producer, which is really different to have a director that's also a post producer, because he's thinking about the end result when he's creating on the front end. And so you would be shocked how much time Caleb spends with music before he thinks anything about what an actor is doing. It's actually incredible. The amount of times he sends me a clip of a song, and it's almost like the scene gets written by the music.
Yeah.
As opposed to let's find a piece of music that fits the vibe of what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Caleb and I actually allow music to front run, which is a really different thing, I think, than maybe most people's process.
It's not shocking to me at all. As I direct those radio dramas for Relevant, the Saints. I often ask the playwrights, send me the music you were listening to when you wrote this.
Right.
And even as an actor, I'll ask that. If a director said, hey, I'd really love for you to send me this, I would really love for you to watch this. For example, one of the producers, he was directing me for Relevant. The producer, he was directing me in St. Augustine, and I was actually going to direct it. And then he had come with so many ideas, and I'm like, why don't you direct it?
Yeah.
I'll play him.
Right.
Because I know this guy, I know this character.
Right.
I can play this.
Right.
And so he sent me one part of his vision, which I forget what it was. It was beautiful, but it's a very existential and almost 2001 Space Odyssey kind of film that he wanted me to see. But he showed me that, and I knew immediately what inner life he wanted St. Augustine to have.
Yeah.
So, for me, that's cool. Like, if you have something that you want me to check out, believe
Man.
me, it will settle inside of me
Isn't
and
that
inform my
wild?
choices.
It's almost
And-
like a spiritual experience to a certain degree. And I think, I mean, as creatives and knowing what we know about God being creator, there is a kind of spiritual application that's taking place here that I really get excited about.
You're touching souls in a sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, if you're doing storytelling well, that's the whole aim is impact at a
Yes.
soul level. And we are very interested in the mundane and the absurd, which is a premise that Brandon Sanderson has for his fantasy fiction novels. Taking the mundane, what you know, which is like a faith-based story of a person that's trying to clean their life up, trying to come to Jesus, but then adding an absurdity element to it, where Caleb and I asked the question, very much like Breaking Bad almost, where you're like, why am I rooting for this person? Why do I find myself
kind of an anti-hero?
Yeah, why am I finding myself on the side of somebody that's actively doing wrong? And one of the things that we love to play with is this idea of, you know, I think so easily in faith-based films, we know who to root for and who to root against. The archetypes are so clean. But what if you take somebody that on the outset you go, ooh, I really don't like this person, but you find yourself kind of going, I hope they win.
Because that's real life.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
we're sinners.
Because the gospel is for those people. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're listening to, you're rooting for somebody who's doing wrong. There's a level of like, well, we do wrong every single day.
Yeah.
Right.
But there is that framework, you know, depending on, you know, you have the archetypes of villain, but this sounds like a woman who is actively searching for the truth. The big question is why do we get in cyclical patterns as human beings?
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And how do you break that cyclical pattern?
Yep.
I remember I went to go see Sleep No More, and I don't know if you know that show.
We actually just had somebody bring that up to us.
Sleep No More. I don't think they're running anymore, but they were in New York for a long time, and they were running out of this warehouse. And Sleep No More is a culmination of Macbeth and a couple of different plays, and it's all interactive. You, as an audience member, wear a mask. The characters don't, and then you're let off at different floors. The best way to really experience is to break off from your group.
Yeah.
So everybody becomes a voyeur in the lives of these characters.
Very interesting.
But because you can wander the whole place, you experience different parts of the story, and then they slowly funnel you in a direction to go where the last scene takes
That's
place.
fascinating.
Or certain scenes take place.
Yeah.
So I found in myself that I had a cyclical pattern where I was walking down the same path, the same corridors.
Yeah.
And I was missing things in my experience. So, and this is like a 3-hour experience. So I started going down other ways. And then I found that all of a sudden I opened up this refrigerator or this closet, and I could walk through these coats. And then I was in or I walked through the refrigerator, and then I walked through all these coats. And then I came out into a living room where this entire scene was happening. So there was something, going back to the music, there was something about the music that spoke to me. And when you started describing who that person was, it was almost as if the music was in a way underwater.
Yep.
And she was underwater, and you hearing, all those different, almost kind of found object sounds were moments in her life that she was replaying over and over.
Yep.
I like that kind of texture in music, that makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a performance can be as subtle as possible. And then all of a sudden the music will take it to another
Oh my
level.
gosh,
It
yeah.
enhances it.
Takes
We
it-
don't need a whole lot from an actor in some scenes, like I think in some ways there's almost a balance between not overdoing it, becoming what has been considered kind of like soap opera performance, something that kind of hits people over the head with it. And it's sort of, I don't know, to me, it always has turned me off as a viewer when I feel like an actor really wants to get me with an emotion.
Trying to sell it. To
Or
We don't like to be
well,
sold
the
to.
selling is a totally different thing. It's when it feels
Does
like
it-
an actor doesn't trust the script enough or doesn't trust what things are going to look like or feel like. And
well, and that cannot be that might not just be trust. That might be just like the level that they are at, the maturity level they are at in their craft and in their experience.
mm-hmm.
You know, you can have a very subtle performance. You know, one thing I don't like is when music is played under if I'm performing like for on stage, I've had experiences where they play music underneath my monologue, and then it's like, well, it's not me dictating the monologue anymore, it's the music in this moment. And so then it's like I lose the freedom as a performer on stage to make this monologue and this character in the moment like have a new experience. The audience may be giving me something different in that moment. Again, that's a different experience from being on set. I mean, we're not going to play music on set, so there is that freedom.
There's a part in the feature film that Caleb and I wrote. It's a really exciting spot because it's countercultural to sort of contemporary Christian ideology, and I think it's going to be really fun. We have this idea about what it's like to be addicted to drugs. We have this idea about what it is to be sinning and to stop sinning and to go and sin no more, right? As Christians, we use that kind of language. What do you do whenever somebody is on a drug that is so addictive that it can physically harm them to stop? Sometimes the best directive for what you should do is go into a clinic that actually helps you come off of the drug by giving you other drugs, right? And it's this sort of like, you got to wean yourself off. Otherwise, there's a total collapse. And from the Christians in the room's perspective, they're going, wait, are you telling a young lady to not stop doing drugs? And as a medical doctor, he's going, as a Christian, I'm saying it's not good, right? We shouldn't do this. You shouldn't harm yourself. But as a medical doctor, I know there's general wisdom that we have on how to do this safely and correctly. And so there's this, especially the culture that we're coming from, there's a lack of education for sure. It's very blue collar. It's very coal mine farmers. And there's this kind of like, oh, you know, the boys, they smoke weed daily, or, you know how the kids are into pills or whatever the case is. And there's like this lack of empathy, maybe is the correct, or lack of shared experience, maybe.
I think it goes back to, and now I'm remembering, thank you for speaking on that. It's something that I was trying to, often I'll go down a path and I'll forget why I said what I was saying, but I know there's a meaning to it. But talking about Sleep No More and talking about those cyclical patterns, I think it's also something that, Christian filmmakers and faith-based filmmakers, and there's a real wave from people of filmmakers in the faith-based arena to make a real visceral experience, because if you make this sort of hallmark portrayal of these stories, it puts you at a distance. But to actually make something that's raw and real obstacles for these characters to overcome, I mean, to me, that's actually speaking to our lived experience.
Sure.
And I believe that the message, whether it be a moral message, maybe these themes will actually be highlighted even more. It's like I'll tell actors, when I'm directing them, that listen, you're like, in this moment you're giving me too much too early. It's like, if you go in this direction and everything is precious, then nothing will be precious. And that's something that, and I think a lot of films do that, and I'm not going to name any series, but when things are too precious, I really believe that nothing is precious. Or if there's a moment after a moment where it's like, oh, this is an amazing moment, this is an amazing moment. Well, what moment am I supposed to latch onto?
When we first started training in speech, like competitive speech in college, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with what that even is. Have you heard?
I was captain of the speech team 2 years.
Okay, so
he knows. We
got
knew
the
that.
books, you got to flip the pages. We had this coach that was just incredible. His name was Jonah, and he essentially walked us in, and he described this idea of what's the angriest a person can be.
Volume,
and everybody's just just like shouting and screaming and stuff. And he's like, how about this? How about this? Is that more angry than somebody who goes like this? Listen to me, right? Soft,
quiet,
contained, and under. And it's like, oh, well, that's a different level of anger. That person's probably more anger than the person, because it's unshelved anger. It's anger that's been contained for the moment, but we're not sure how
what's
that's
back
going to
there?
manifest.
The theater of the mind. What's back there behind
That's the
that?
whole. It's when actors fall into archetype. I directed one of the series. There was Maximilian Kolbe, and there was a guy, an actor, who was playing a German officer in Auschwitz, and he came in with the stereotypical Nazi, German, and I'm like, pull back. You got to understand, this is a real person who believes, and what's scarier is that he believes what he believes.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you want to be able to even give care. Oh, here's an example. I had one of the major theaters downtown. I had an actress who asked me to coach her. And they were doing this piece, they're doing this show that's based on the graphic novel Berlin. And it's this crazy graphic novel that goes through Nazi Germany. And this one character is played by a woman who plays Hitler. And in these scenes, there's a scene where she's giving the speech as Hitler, and then she's having this scene where she's seeing this young girl she's drawing. And so this actor, really great actor, but came in with, the almost Charlie Chaplin-esque, Adolf Hitler. And I'm like, this is not what this piece is calling for. He's like, right now you're hiding behind character.
Yeah.
I want you to bring the human out. I want to be convinced, and I want to have sympathy for this character.
Yeah.
To me, that's an interesting choice. To see that character. I already know he's an evil man. I already know that.
Yep.
I want to see the human side of him.
Yep.
So it sounds there you wanted more tragedy than comedy, right? Comedy is that you're aware that.
I'm sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
yeah, the picture that you're portraying is a farce. That the character is not supposed to be believable. The character is supposed to be shocking. It's supposed to be somebody that you look at and you go, this guy was, unbelievably bad, as opposed to trying to perform a character in which you are listening, you're opening up, you're opening yourself up to hear from, which I think lends itself more to tragedy. Where
it's even and it also lends it open to be comedic as well. To be able to see an evil person like that being portrayed, and seeing the humanity also makes it tragic,
right?
Because it's like you think about what turn did he make where he could have. I told her I want to see the longing for being an artist in this girl who's drawing in front of you and remembering, oh my God, I used to be this person.
Yeah.
But there's no turning back now.
Oh yeah. Oh man, there's the whole thing there too about,
and there's
level shifting.
All of a sudden, there's levels. There's so many levels happening.
Absolutely.
And that also promotes thinking and discussion for your audience.
Something that and this is kind of taking this into a separate level too. I've noticed, it feels like there's kind of a trend right now where A-list celebrities are getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Have you seen this and heard this taking place?
I have, yeah.
It's becoming kind of like a cool thing to do, but I do think prevalent underneath all of this is that really good actors and really good directors are competitive types. They're not people that are more relaxed or people that don't enjoy a board game. Just talking about sort of the highest level quality, the people that are performing at the top 5% are interested in things like martial arts or physical competition or pushing themselves mentally and physically at the same time if it's possible. I think that's really what acting is at a degree. Like archetypally, I think it's pushing both the mind and the body into a uncomfortable place.
Those are all things that accentuate your art. I train in Filipino martial arts.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to kind of cut to you is, well, one, so we would love to have you whenever we're moving to Knoxville in about a month. And we're going to try to have a actual location there where we have people on site. So we would love to actually have you in and would love to interview you while we're training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with you.
You can train.
And so I'm going to be
I've
trying to
never
choke
taken
you out.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
Okay.
so you guys
Yeah.
can teach me.
Yeah, so we're going
I
to be
love
trying
that.
to choke you out while we talk to you about the craft and the theory.
Ground karate.
Just
Ground
to,
karate.
just to sort of see, what comes out
As you're
whenever
screaming for your
Demetrius-
life, we'll just shout out, "We don't believe you! We don't believe you! Make it believable!"
I go through so much pain with my guru, who's
Yeah.
amazing. I've never felt pain like that in my life.
It's
before.
unbelievable. My wife was a four-sport. I mean, she was an all-state athlete, tri-state athlete, had an opportunity for a full ride scholarship for long jump and for high jump. So she was jumping 18 and a half feet, which is like in high school. So that's like 1 foot short of like Olympic level. And
That's incredible.
she had people reaching out to her and all this. So she starts training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with me. And I'm like, we should go to our first tournament together. And we roll up, Demetrius. And she's like, Kyler, I've never been this scared in my entire life. Her whole body's trembling. And I'm like, you were like an Olympic level long jumper athlete. And she's like, nothing feels like this. And I'm like, that's right. Because whenever you're competing and you know someone's trying to actually win in that way, where they're trying to compete and they're trying to physically attack and assault you, that just gets like MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, martial arts in general.
Yeah.
That takes you to a completely different place. So what is it about that endeavor that makes an actor or a creative have that edge, do you think?
As far as like being in the craft?
Yeah. Why do we see artists at a high level lending themselves to physical combat related athleticism?
You're thinking like Tom Hardy, some of these
yeah.
guys.
I mean, all of them that are doing it at a high level are putting themselves in really uncomfortable, scary situations. That's what mixed martial arts is. You're constantly fear, dope. What would be the stress hormones? Cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're intentionally putting yourselves into those positions where it's like, this is not comfortable. This is not.
Yeah, it tricks the brain into not perceiving cortisol the same way.
You just mentioned that your guru beats up on you. That's what you said just now, right? You're saying he physically assaults you. Why would you go?
It's just part of the training. I mean, you need to be put in those positions in order to, condition your body. And I don't train for competition. I train for real life. I've never been in a competition for this sort of thing. The reason why I got into it is to protect my family. Yeah. That's why I got into it. It just happens to be, and I train in all different types of weaponry. But again, that's also for, survival is what I train for.
Well, we got to get you into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because
right.
the ultimate weapon is a triangle armbar.
These right here.
Omoplata.
Well, we do grappling as well.
Good. Okay, good.
I don't have much, I can't say I have a ton of experience with grappling yet. I mean, I've definitely trained in it.
Got to do it, man.
I feel like I have a ton of experience.
We'll go easy on you. We'll go easy on you.
Oh, thanks. Most of my training is knife, sword, and open hand. And we just haven't had the space to do more grappling stuff.
Okay. I got a question for you. You got a sword. Okay.
What?
Yeah. You got a sword to your left and you've got a knife to your right. Which one are you grabbing? What's the weapon of choice to defend yourself? The sword, right? Because longer.
Yeah, going for a long.
What about
distance.
one horse-sized sword or 1,000 duck-sized?
You've heard of these dilemmas, right?
I'll choose the door.
The door. Run. Hey, that is underspoken.
When you're training and you're like, oh man, especially I find knife training very humbling.
Yeah.
It's like, I never want to be in this situation.
No,
No, not yet. Not until me and Harvey get the rules straightened out.
Rules? In a knife fight? No rules.
No.
Terrifying,
And that's another thing is like you train to not be in those situations. Ultimately, when you're training for like real life situations.
Just how fast things can go bad.
Also, just I love the art. Like, there's something about like my guru. He really, really brings the culture and the art to it.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. it's beautiful. The way he manipulates bodies, the way he moves. And he's shorter than me, but guys that are like 6'5", whatever weight, he can subdue him.
Shout out to Andy Sabins, who was 160 pounds and worked. Would throw Division I linebackers around on the mats in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 160, 170 pounds.
Andrew Sabin's martial arts.
Oh my gosh. You don't have to be big. And that's the power of education, right? And I think that's true in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think it's true in acting. I think it's true in directing and writing. It's once you understand it.
And I think when I started training, I recognized that it brought a new level of confidence to how I walk in the world, and you have a different respect for life, for situations, for people.
You remain calm. That's what I've found.
Very calm.
Really scary situations.
You're on yellow alert at all times. You're aware in different ways.
Yep.
I've even felt I've told my guru this. My reflexes are off the hook. Now, where it's like I remember like I had my phone in my hand and I dropped it and then I reached down and I had it in my hand. And just the speed in which you react to things. But it's the confidence that you walk in the world when you do train. That confidence translates to how you also approach your work as a creative and how you appear on screen as well.
Totally. I've heard a lot of people even with sales that talk about when you need work, people are less likely to buy from you. When you have more than enough, there is something about that ease that you have as a salesperson that they want to buy from you. And I think it's certainly true of every art form. Anytime you're trying to sell something, your comfortability going into it, I think is going to play a huge factor. You talk about getting ready in the morning before you're on set, not just waiting until you hear lights, camera, action, to kind of get started there. And I know people don't say lights, camera, action anymore, by the way. I have no clue why I just said that.
It's okay.
I'm going to scrub that.
I judged you for like a second.
We're just going to edit that. I got something for you, Demetrius. Were you taking that somewhere? So, talking about this grit that you develop in the fight where you have to push yourself and push yourself and push yourself. Caleb and I, in the first probably 3 years of trying to break into the industry and get somebody to do a movie deal with us, felt really let down by the fact that it felt like we were getting passed over. It felt like people weren't taking us seriously. There's this image that we talk about quite a bit about like a person that's trying to break in, right? For an actor that's trying to get their big break, a director that's trying to get a deal with distribution, whatever the case is. It's almost like you have to stay at this lower level for a long time. But you see people all around you that are winning the lottery, per se, right? That are getting these unbelievable opportunities that just drop into their lap. And you go, why isn't that happening to me? Why isn't it my turn? Something that Caleb and I, we are just now at the 5-year mark of our journey that we've just begun to realize is we are so thankful that it's not been easy. We are so thankful that everything that we've made so far has been by absolute fight. It's been a fight to get to every single marker that we've hit. And at so many different points we've gone, why have we not given up? When you hear no so many times, when you are told this won't work for us, or this isn't what we're going to move forward with, or the timing's not right, or there's another show coming out, it's almost like those small battles, those small things that are toughening you up, when Caleb and I now are going to get our opportunity, it's kind of like we're going to be combat ready whenever that moment comes. We understand ourselves better because we've not been told yes so easily, if that makes sense. What is your perspective as an actor?
It's a difference between there's your timing and then there's the actual timing, which is God's timing. And being able to put that trust that you are doing everything that you can, that you're using your abilities every single day as a creative to do something for your craft, to do
Right.
something to push yourself forward.
Yes.
It's something that I think a lot of people who are creatives, they tend to fall into depression and anxiety because things are not happening so quickly. And I believe the best antidote for that, other than if you're not of the faith, for me it's part faith, and then the other thing is giving into God's timing, but doing something for creating every day. You're creative, and something for me that dispels that, as we say in Greek, the legismo, the evil that whispers in your ears, is to create. To
Say that term, that phrase again. What is it?
Legismo. It's the evil that whispers in your ears.
Okay.
It brings you to depression. It brings you to dark places. To dispel that, I believe that a creative needs to create.
So
Yeah.
this man's going out and planting gardens. That's how he's.
Well, that's part of it. That accentuates that. It's true. I mean, that accentuates your art. It's like everybody. I mean, my main success. I mean, I've been in all the stages. I've got a really solid theater resume, and people look and they're like, oh wow, you've worked with all these great people. But the thing is like they don't know anything about The Chosen. Like I'm like, as far as like secular stuff, I'm an unknown.
Yeah.
I'm fighting out there. I still have to fight. I still
Yeah.
have to get that audition. I still have to push my agents to get me work, and fight for me. And so I still feel, and to me, I like to say I'm a working class actor.
Yeah.
I'm a gun for hire. To me, the ultimate, other than I've already made success in my life, and my success is my family.
Yeah.
I have that solid grounding in my life of faith and family, and the rest of it is just this creative fight to be able to tell stories, real stories that impact people with great creatives people may not share the same faith, but they have a good heart and a good soul.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to do that. That's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be able to create and tell stories that are compelling, that my family can look back on and say, hey, yeah, Dad did that. My dad did that. I'm proud of that.
That's good.
That's what I want in my life.
Yeah. Okay, you jump into a time machine, Demetrius, and you have to go back to a different century. Which century are you choosing?
Oh, wow.
You can't stay in the 2000s or the 1900s. You got to go back.
Oh,
We're going all the way back.
That would break my heart.
You can take your family with you, and
I can.
and two
Okay,
vegetables.
Then that's better. Oh wow, it's so hard when you have knowledge about like what those times were like.
Bring out your dead!
And like
Those weren't good times.
what medicine was like and stuff like that.
They were just bloodletting. That was
Yeah,
pretty
right?
cool. That was pretty cool.
I think I'd maybe, I don't know, maybe I'd choose the Victorian period.
Victorian? Okay.
Yeah.
For the art?
Yeah, for the art,
Yeah,
for
the art.
for the science that was happening in that.
Oh,
in those
man,
days.
the science. That is understated, the church science. Yeah.
I mean, not even church science, but just like the innovations that were happening.
Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't want to be at an age where I had to serve in World War One.
Yeah.
That's
So
It's such a
that.
difficult question.
So if you could live in any fictional universe, what's the maybe like a video? Did you play video games growing up? It seems like you didn't.
Do I play video games?
Oh, you do? You play?
Totally do.
Oh, okay. Let's go. So I hoped that we would connect on that ground. If you could live in any fictional universe, whether it be like a movie verse or a video game universe, what would it be?
I'd probably, if I'd choose a series, I'd choose Star Trek.
Okay.
All battle stations, Mr. Sulu. Battle stations.
Interesting. What is it about that universe that appeals to you?
It's just I think William Shatner as Captain Kirk really sold me on it. I don't know. There's something about the exploration of the universe, visiting new planets. Like right now, I'm actually watching just for fun Stargate SG-1. There's something about the mix of. I just find that universe really interesting.
If you could switch yourself out with any role that's ever been performed, whether it be a movie or stage play, what is like your role that you wish you could switch out with that person and take that role? What's that performance that you wish you could have done that part?
I think I'd love to play Omar Sharif's role in Lawrence of Arabia.
If we caught you on set, what's your downtime activity that you love to do whenever you're not being called on? What's the thing? Board games?
No, nothing. I know I like to hike. I like to wander the sets. I'll wander the studio, go talk to people, meet new people.
Yeah.
I like to see who's working and get to know them. So like you'd probably often see me like trying to connect with somebody. It's either I'm going to be extroverted or I'm going to be introverted. It depends on what's going to film next.
You can snap your fingers and remove one animal from the planet. What is it? You want to get rid of?
Mosquitoes. Oh,
mosquitoes.
Is that okay?
That's an insect.
We'll take it. That's part of the animal kingdom.
No, I want animal. I want blood on your hands here. I want people to not like you for this. What's the lovable animal you would get rid of?
Just snap your fingers. No,
you're so likable. You got a likable face. we gotta unliken you.
What has the manatee ever done? What has the manatee ever done for anybody?
This lumbering mass of a marine mammal is the manatee.
Oh, I hate manatees.
Okay, you can snap your fingers
They're
here.
so smug. Manatees they're the most
the way
smug.
they float.
So
They're like I did nothing to be a man. I'm just
gonna float on my back.
I was never a boy.
I'm just gonna float on my. What is one movie you wish you could forget and watch it again for the first time?
Oh, I got two: Usual Suspects and Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, nice.
Okay,
the manatee of all things.
Off the top of your head, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
If I could have a superpower, I would probably want to be able to fly. I think that would be like the best one in terms of like uses. But here's a good play on this question.
Mm-hmm.
What's a superpower that would be worth it if you had to also immediately poop your pants when you used it? Demetrius.
Probably healing ability. If I could heal somebody. Hey, listen, this is going to be great,
speed,
but not.
You better be wearing a diaper. He's like, come back to life. It better be worth it.
Hey, what's the guy? Hey, listen, don't worry. It's not going to hurt. You're going to feel so good, but I mean, you might be offended. So
it is what it is.
You know what?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the guy that touches things and it turns to gold? In Midas, the Midas touch.
Midas.
That, if you had to poop, would be perfect.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So you're just like, where are you getting all these nuggets of gold from?
Oh, no. He's got the Midas touch. I didn't see it coming. What we like to do is we like to end with a really short improv scene. So I'm going to give you a direction, okay? And then you and Caleb are going to act out a scene and slowly... You want to do it? You want to improv?
I mean, the worst thing that could happen is we cut it.
We can edit this out, just so you know. This doesn't have to be.
I look like
my coffee.
directly I'm like looking at you.
How about this? How about you're a store owner, Demetrius, okay? And Caleb comes in. He wants to buy an object from behind you, and suddenly something starts to happen with this object, okay?
Hello, sir. I would like to buy that cash register from you.
Huh?
Do you speak English?
What do you want?
Omelette du fromage.
Oh, c'était son bouton pour tout le monde.
Omelette du fromage. No, sir. Listen,
what do you need?
I know you haven't seen a lot of people coming through here. It looks like it's been pretty empty for the most part today. I am... I'm in the middle of starting my own store right across the road, and we don't have any cash registers. I'd like to buy the cash register from you.
You want to buy my cash register?
Yep.
You want to buy this cash register?
That one right there, right in front of you. Yes, sir.
Well,
Can
how
you
much
take your
you
hand
wanna-
off of it, please?
How much? This? It's not your cash register until you pay for
Not
it.
yet, but I would like to have it as clean as possible.
I'll wipe it down for you. How much are you willing to pay me?
Can you sell the wipes as well? Depends if you sell the wipes with it.
Yeah, I can sell the wipes. What else do you need? We carry those wipes.
Do me a favor. Would you
I
mind
feel
holding
like
it up
you're trying
beside
to
your
buy my entire store so you can put it in your store. Are you my competition?
Sir, can we have a conversation about the pants that you're wearing?
You like my pants?
And scene. And scene. Very good. Very good.
That's a man who starts with the register.
Hey, that was not pity laughter. That immediately, I said, you can buy anything in the store, and he wants to buy the cash register. Oh, that immediately threw the scene, Caleb. And I just want to say,
If you would have
in terms
started with pants, I would have taken my pants and.
I thought maybe he chooses something off of the shelf that's like an orb, and we find out it has some mystical powers. Not Caleb. He's here to
I want to buy
buy
your cash register
buy the cash register.
I'm starting my own store. See,
Demetrius,
right
thank you,
across the
brother.
way.
with all
Thank
the
you
cash
so
in
much.
it. Oh, guys, this is really wonderful. It was so much
Thank
fun.
you for your time,
I hope
man.
we do it again. And yeah, all my best for everything. I can't wait to get a chance to work with you both.
Yeah.
And create